Hi, this is Anthony from West Coast Custom Concrete. Today's video will be on a concrete parking lot at an apartment complex. Here I am with my case breaking this out. This was super old asphalt and they had layered it over probably 50, 60 years. They layered over it. And there was I think they put a water line across there or something. So they filled it with concrete. So I just put my breaker on to break some of it up, to open up a hole to put this bucket on. And the dirt was so hard underneath that I put my breaker on to break most of it, so I could loosen the dirt underneath. So when I scoop the asphalt up, I can get dirt with it because I got to take another 10 or 11 yards of dirt out once I grade this because some of this is 1 inch, some of it's 5 inches, some of it's 7 inches. It's so sporadic. The depth of the asphalt is so really old too, and the ground in some spots was like granite. I couldn't even get my bucket in there with the teeth in there to take some dirt with it, so I just used the breaker on it to loosen 2 or 3 inches of dirt on it. Here I am loading a super 10 wheeler. I estimated it at two super 10 wheelers of asphalt and then one huge load of dirt, and that's exactly what it ended up being. See, it was thicker on the edge. It's kind of an easement because half of it's for one apartment building and the other half of the driveway is for the other apartment building next door. And they put a swell on it, whoever poured the other side. So it was kind of good because I had elevation problems up by the building where I had to get the water to the swell. So once I could get it down there with 2 or 3% to that swell falling right where that truck's tire is, it all worked out perfect. I'm just peeling this up as I go. I usually just take it in big pieces like that and load it. This case is sweet. You can. I'm 4 inches lower than the concrete. I could still throw it. Have enough reach to throw it to the other side. See, I'm going to put my breaker on and loosen up the break the asphalt and then loosen 2 or 3 inches of dirt with the bit. So as I scoop it up, I can take dirt with it because I got to take a one whole load out. And I don't want it to go over. So I'm going to mix them in the asphalt to make sure I make it. Super sweet combo I have with that breaker in that case. I could do any job with it. I could get rid of 100 or 200 yards in one day or break 10,000 square feet and haul it in one day with this tractor. When you do heavy work, you need heavy equipment, and you can accomplish whatever you need to accomplish. There's nothing I can't break or do with this setup. See, some of it's super thin. Then towards the end, it's kind of, they made it thicker back there, but they slurried over it over probably 50, 60 years. So there's different layers of it. So I just broke it up and then I loosened the dirt with my bit so I can go down 2 or 3 inches where it's thin. If it was super thin, I'd really loosen the dirt and I'd take a whole bucket of dirt with the asphalt, load it in it. You can hide it in the truck in the crushing plant. You're allowed 5% of dirt, but I put a lot more in that in these loads because I had a huge dirt load. But as we got towards the sidewalk, it got thicker. It was really cabawampus the way that it was, the thickness of the asphalt. See, I peeled that, and there's another section right there underneath of it where they re-poured over it. So I'm just continuously to break this up until I can load it all. Here I am. That's me. Just taking the breaker off. I'm going to throw the bucket back on and load it up. I didn't want to go on the neighbor apartment's driveway or leave tire marks, so I stayed in the dirt and I loaded the truck from inside this property, Linda's property, where the dirt's at. It didn't take me too long. This is about, 20, 30 yards of asphalt, probably. And I took out about 10 yards of dirt because the owners and I agreed, because it's an easement and like 5, 6 cars park on it. Plus the trash truck comes barreling down that thing 3 days a week and loads the can. And the truck's super heavy. Where we pulled it, we agreed to pour it 5 inches, but I poured it much thicker the way I graded it. Because it calced 28 yards at 4 inches and then 32 yards at 5 inches. But I used 38 yards on it of concrete, which is just better to do. And see that I got plenty of reach on this case. Even though I'm lower, I can still reach in and push the pile to the other side of the truck and then load the center, then in front right there. Here I'm grading this. Some spots were soft, kind of clay, and some were kind of nice sandy dirt. Just getting finished grading it here. I took a full truckload of dirt out of there, a full super 10-wheeler. That section's got to come down because it was high, because the asphalt was lower than the concrete was going to be. I raised the concrete up against that wall. Just fine grading it here. Javier and I again. He's setting elevations for me. He was putting string lines across, whatever I need. I just stay in the tractor and he tells me up an inch, down an inch, 3 inches, whatever I need. In the backyard of that fence right there, the backyard to that apartment is lower than the concrete, so it's going to have a water problem. So I stubbed a water drain line into that backyard and then put it into the planter. And then the owners, when they get ready, we can run it to the street and core it out to the curb, and that backyard will drain, no problem. The main thing is putting a drain back there, because you can't, once you pour that driveway, the water's not coming out of that backyard. So we have a drain stub back there. Here's Javier hitting the elevations, throwing the forms up, getting ready for tomorrow. We demoed it all and hauled all the dirt in like 5-6 hours. Then the next day we came back. We cut out earlier and we came back and we set the forms and put all the rebar in. And then we'll pour it on the third day. This spot right here, to your right, there was a drain that billowed water under that asphalt for, it had to have been a couple of months. It was just a sinkhole. So I dug it out and I threw a bunch of Portland, like 4 or 5 bags. I dug it out about 3 feet with a shovel, and I put a bunch of bags of cement and watered it in that sinkhole right there. And then I put Portland on the surface and I sprinkled it so the powder will get hot and cure the dirt and draw the water to it. And the next day it was pretty good. We poured it, 10 days ago or something, 8 days ago, and there's not one crack right there. So I'm just sprinkling that where I put all the powder, and there's a bunch of powder underneath too that I watered in. I put about 4 90-pound bags, and I put one on top. Here's Javier. What he does, lays a tape across. He goes 24, 24, 24, and he paints the whole grid, and then he just drops a rebar on it. It's super simple. He's just dropping the 20-footers right at each paint mark where he painted on the ground. So he knows 24. He's tying it up. This is day 2, super easy day. We're just setting one side of forms of the property and then tying all the rebar. Here it is. There's the setup. 24 on center on the rebar. Against the building right there, he's going to throw a curb on it tomorrow, the next day. So I'll explain that when he gets to it, why I did it. Here's my pump. I'm ready to go. We're waiting for Chuck Case is bringing the concrete. We're using a 3000 with no fly ash and then 100% fibers. And when I use fibers, I don't use those long ones or none of that stuff. They don't work good. It doesn't pump right. It doesn't finish right. You can't broom it. So they had microfibers. So I put that in the mix, and there's like billions of little hairs that bind together. That makes it super strong with the rebar. We put a flow line, the 2x4 across, diagonal to the swell. So we'll rod that section so it falls towards the drain, towards the swell, and then the other side you can rod it perfect. You can't miss from the existing concrete to that board. Here's Pedro bow floating it. See that flow line, that board, that side's draining straight out, and then we'll rod and pour the next side. Then we're throwing a Fresno on it here while we have access to it, because once you pour the other side, you're locked in and you can't bow float it or Fresno it. Here's our second truck. That's me pumping it, and they're pulling the steel up by hand. So once you do that swell at an angle, that flow line to the drain, then you can just come straight with the board and go from the existing to the level you have. Here I'm pumping it along the existing. Here's the curb. What happened was the asphalt was so low we couldn't get water out when we had to raise the concrete, and it would have been above the mud sill in the mud sill there. So we put a curb on it above the wet screed, and then we just poured to the curb any height we wanted to get the right percentage to get the water out. And here we are. We're putting the string across, and he'll snap the line, and that's where they're going to cut the joints. So you just snap it across, and you can see it in there, and then they'll cut it. But they had to come from each side because the span was so big. And the second driver ran my pump all the way down and didn't leave me any concrete in. I was supposed to have the trucks 20 minutes apart, and the third truck was late. So I didn't move the mud for like 20, 30 minutes. So I had to bring my hose back and recirculate it, pump it in my pump, and just move it in a circular from the end back into the pump. This is truck 3, I think. Yeah. We doweled the whole side up against the existing easement to the other side, right there where the guy in the yellow is. We doweled that whole side about 24 inches all the way straight down with like 15-inch dowels and tied it into that slab. We got 6 guys on this. It ended up being I poured it pretty thick. It ended up being 38 yards, almost 4 trucks. Here's Pedro cutting the joints down. We put them about 7 feet apart because rule of thumb, it'll crack at 8 feet. You can put them at 8 and it'll crack in the joint, but I think we put them a little bit closer, maybe 8 feet at the most. I wouldn't go over that. And this is truck 4. This is Chuck brought the fourth load, 8-yard cleanup, so it's a total of 38 yards. Here I am still pumping it. We're laying it down. I got 6 guys on this. It's like 2,300 square feet. I got 6 guys. It's it just came out just perfect as I expected. We overkilled it with the PSI, the thickness, the rebar, and the fibers in it. So, I mean, insurance-wise, we did as good as you can do is what you can use. Just finishing this up here. Now we got all hands on deck, skating it, troweling it, edging it, getting ready to put a broom pretty soon. It went off pretty good. That straight cement goes off. Here's Javier brooming it. I hosed it off the next day, and the water just drained perfect. And there's the finished product there. I guess the spans are about 8 feet. We jointed it, and then up top we did like a box type deal. You'll see it right here. Tap me when you. If you want to watch the best in the West, subscribe, and you'll keep seeing videos of all kinds of different genres of concrete. Thank you very much for watching my video.